Ladies and gents, welcome back to another Engineers Podcast. Today I'm joined by CTO and co founder Manoj Tatika of a business called Sprinque, who are in the buy now, pay later world. And we're going to be exploring the buy now, pay later world. We're going to be exploring more around payments, credit risk analysis. We're also going to be exploring a really interesting journey from an IC and a software engineer, all the way through to being the co-founder of business, raising money, growing a business, and putting a very different hat on. So, Manoj, nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you as well. Pretty good, pretty good. A stormy day, but safe in my home. Yeah,
Yeah, it's always stormy here. You're Netherlands based, right?
yes. I'm based in Amsterdam. Yes.
Nice. We're London based. So, listen, I'm used to that 9 months of the year. Not always
Yeah.
stormy, but I'm used to the clouds and the rain. So, yeah, is what it is, right?
Yes.
Do
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
kick us off with a bit of your background and
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about what I've just mentioned, the IC and software engineering background and where you've come from?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, thanks a lot for having me on this pod. I'm Manoj. I'm originally from India. I grew up in a small town in the south of India. And around about when I was like 15, 16, I joined a university. I went to Indian Institute of Technology. It's one of the premier engineering institutes out of the country. I got my master's and bachelor's in computer science, been coding since I was like 16, 14, 16, something around that age, tinkering with like a lot of games, tried to build a game, didn't work out so well. Yeah, and then after I graduate, I did a couple of internships when I was in my engineering institute with two really large companies, and I thought, okay, I experienced the world of like these large bureaucratic companies. I wanted to be in the startup side where you can grow and learn faster. So when I graduated in 2014, I mainly was looking out for like startups. And at that time, and even now, right, like Bangalore is an Indian city where there are a lot of startups being like, created and run out of the city. I joined a very early stage company when as a software engineer, right? Like, and this company is called GoZumo. It's a peer-to-peer marketplace for used cars and bikes. And we were a small team of people, raised some money and trying to build this. Unfortunately, for a wide variety of reasons, it did not take off. Even though we had the money to do so, mainly because we were unable to find a product market fit in that particular space. And the lessons learned in that startup really still are in my head, even when running Spring. And I learned a lot of things about like why startups are very interesting and exciting for me, but I also learned a lot about what not to do at an early stage startup, right? So that was my first couple of years, coming out into the industry. And then I went and I worked for another really cool AI machine learning based startup called Netradyne. So what Netradyne still does is they put a device, a monitoring device in the trucks, cars, all the heavy four wheelers, to monitor the driver's behavior using camera feed, mainly camera feed and inertial and all kinds of sensors that are inside the device. And I joined again as an early team member around the time they raised their seed money. So now they're a Series C, Series D company, slowly inching their way towards an IPO. Amazon is one of their bigger customers. If you see a device inside an Amazon Prime truck, that is probably from Netradyne.
Wow.
Yeah, and then after that, I moved to Germany to work for Yelp. I was really keen on how do these large, big tech companies work. Right, like Yelp was somewhere there around, like, and the main reason for joining Yelp was to understand how does a Silicon Valley tech company works, right? And I think I got a lot of good insights in how things are managed at that scale. Yeah, and then I really wanted to get back to my roots of like being a startup, being in startups, and that's when I quit Yelp around late 2020. The crazy time it was, the second wave of pandemic. Decided to quit my job, and I was already working on a few ideas in fintech, in B2B fintech specifically. I was talking to a bunch of exporters and cross-border merchants who were dealing, like in food and agriculture products across continents, right? Like an Indian exporter exporting something to a German merchant or a German merchant exporting something to US and so on, right? And I noticed that there was a gap in the payments and how payments are done and how really painful it is, and how there is a gap in the market that addressing them, right? And yeah, and then around the same time, Antler, it's an accelerator program that came around. That's where I met my co-founders, Mark and Juan. Mark came in with a very, very similar idea and a lot of and a wealth of experience in this particular space. Um, uh, and that's what drew us all together. What Mark did was he was running the payment operations for Amazon's B2B marketplace. So for a while, right? Like and he had a lot of insights into this, how this business works, what kind of a product that we want to build, and clearly the synergies matched. And then we also had Juan, who was working with MessageBird at the time. He also quit his job. So here we are, like three people quit their jobs to do something really cool in this space in the middle of the pandemic. And we started working together. We found synergies. It's it's hard to go from a being an employee to like a co-founder. We did that hard change, and yeah, here we are after 3 years. Yeah.
There's so much to unpack there, by the way. Um, I love your background, as in knowing you for a short minute. You were destined to do something like this, being a builder of your own things and your own games, joining a business, very first business, building something, raising some money, trying to find product market fit, and then deliberately thinking about relocating. How does big tech work? Going to Yelp. So it feels for someone listening to you that this was a journey that you're always going to go on. So good for you. And it takes an immense amount of bravery to leave something, especially in the global pandemic, to then go and build something, albeit accelerated program with support by others, but immense bravery. Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
There is also something that I want to touch on, and that would be what not to do in a
Oh yeah.
startup, where you learn
Absolutely.
at your first, if you like,
Yes.
commercial experience. But just give us an overview of Sprinque and what the business currently does on top of what you've already told us. Just give us that full overview.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the main thesis that we all started working towards, like me, Mark, and Juan, we started working with this thesis that, hey, right now, you and I, as a consumer, we go and buy goods, shoes, whatever, food, for example, online. B2C e-commerce has taken off. There are many, many companies, right? And what is happening in the digitization of the B2B commerce, and what about the whole set of B2B e-commerce, right? And how is that happening? And what we realized is it is slowly taking off. And around the time that one of the things that I think kind of triggered us to quit our jobs and work really hard on this particular problem is that COVID has accelerated this digitization of B2B commerce, how business is done, right? And that is the fundamental thesis on which we started. And then we came to the payments part of it. Payments is absolutely the most central important thing to have a great e-commerce like experience or to do business, right? Like the ease of payments is what helped the B2B, B2C e-commerce to take off so fast,
Yeah.
right? And that part was missing, right? And if you notice how business to business payments are done, it's usually like, hey, I'm dealing with you as a business, yeah, and you deliver me some goods and services, and then I expect you as a merchant to send me an invoice that I can pay at the end of the month. This is how things have been done for a really long time, right? And
Mm.
then now in the B2B e-commerce world, I come to your website and then I want to buy 10,000 euros worth of raw materials that I can use and go do something. Right? For example, if I am a paintings manufacturer, I now come to your chemicals website, right, where chemicals marketplace. I buy those chemicals to
Yeah.
manufacture paintings. Now you're asking me for a credit card payment, which as a procurement manager, I may not have access to this credit card, or businesses don't want to pay on credit card. Or more likely, what we found out in the market is this particular chemicals marketplace doesn't even have a payments option at all, right? So they just connect the buyer and the seller, and then they just go back into emailing each other and doing the transaction in a manual fashion using emails and I don't know, phone calls and so on. And this payments piece was just completely missing. So this is what we wanted to address with Sprinque and the product. The product that we built is very simple. It's a B2B buy now, pay later like solution. A merchant integrates Sprinque. They can offer Sprinque as a payment method to their buyers. And when I'm a buyer, I come to your website, the merchant's website. I enter my business details, my name, phone number, and so on. And takes care of the onboarding of this buyer, their credit risk check, fraud risk check, and we onboard them in less than 2 seconds. And we give them a credit limit of, let's say, 10,000 euros. And we give them a payment term as well. It can be 15 days, 30 days, 45 days, 60, 90, or in a new line of product that we're launching is pay in 3 installments, 6 installments, 12, 24, right? So, and so for me as a buyer, I want to, let's say, buy on a 30-day payment term. I can just click, okay, I want to pay with Sprinque, and that's it. They can just go back to, whatever they do. And after the goods are shipped, as a buyer, I will be receiving the invoice, which I now have 30 more days to pay. Now I can send it to my finance team or to my CFO or to my CEO. Hey, can you take care of this bill at the end of the month?
Yeah.
Right? And for the merchant, if you look at the merchant side, the merchant can now service buyers all over the Europe, right? And even beyond. So our coverage, our geographic coverage is our main differentiator. We are now able to service buyers across Europe and US and a few Asian countries on an opportunistic basis. And I, as a merchant, now I don't have to worry, is this buyer real? Is this a fraudulent?
Yeah.
What if I give them the goods? What if they don't pay? Right now, I, as a merchant, I just get paid on the day after, and I just go back to doing my business, which is like procuring,
Yeah.
making, manufacturing, selling goods. And I don't have to worry about my, if the buyer is going to pay me and so on. So it removes a lot of risk, a lot of manual processes, admin work for the merchant, and the buyers, they get payment terms, which they already always had, on in the offline
Yeah.
world. Now they're getting it online as well. So that's the whole pitch of Spring.
Great pitch. I'm smiling because I can really relate. And I think there's been a lot to talk about B2C, buy now, pay later for the last few years, which, we can tuck into. But everything B2B has always felt quite antiquated, running a business where we do have relationships with other suppliers. Everything that you're saying about some of those challenges, I feel on a weekly, monthly basis. Whereas the buying experience, like you mentioned, for B2C, if you want to go on to one of your high street retailers and buy some clothes. You know, it's really, really just quick and simple. But that has brought some challenges, I think, which I'm drumming up in my head. I would rather the expert share with us what you feel, I guess, some of those reputational challenges that have come with buy now, pay later,
Yeah.
how you've overcome them as well
Yes.
is probably quite
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. I think buy now pay later has gotten a bad name in the B2C world specifically, and I think the main reason is one of the main reasons that the bad name comes from is because a lot of the consumers were the buy now pay later was encouraging for impulsive purchases, right? Let's imagine I'm scrolling Instagram and I see this ad for a, I don't know, 500 euro bag from Gucci, and I'm just gonna immediately go and buy it, and I don't have to pay for it right now, and I can pay with Klarna or whatever buy now pay later options that you have,
Yeah.
and this encourages this impulsive behavior, and as well as um, the and it's enabling affordability, right, for the consumer on things that they may or may not necessarily need, right? But if you look at B2B buy now pay later, right, like which is what we are pitching our product as, it is a product of necessity. This is how business has always been done. I have a data scientist who can give you an example of this buy now pay later happening in the ancient Florence merchants world as well. So this is right. It goes back quite into the time with how this with how the way with how things have been done in this way.
Yeah.
So in that sense, B2B buy now pay later is addressing specifically the need rather than for the affordability, for the buyer experience, and for removing any kind of frictions from the process of this enabling this transaction between a merchant and a buyer. I think that is what we are addressing, and this is how we are different from the B2C buy now pay later world.
Share with us some of the information, innovation that you're doing internally. You talk about a data science engineer. And I know anyway from speaking to you, there's some really cool stuff that you're doing. Share with the audience a little bit about that innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the primary innovation I would point out to immediately is the ability to onboard buyers from different countries, right? Like right now it's Europe and US, right? And that's a huge geographic coverage. Ability to onboard buyers uh, from these countries and probably going global in less than 2 seconds, I think is the key part of the innovation that we are able to like roll out quite fast, all the while taking care of fraud risk and credit risk, right? So how the more nuanced details of this is that we have built up a data network that combines that basically has integrated a bunch of data sources like credit bureaus, fraud risk data sources, Google Maps, for example, to do different kinds of analysis on how far, let's say, the shipping address and the registration address is, looking at the user's digital footprint, right?
Wow.
Like, for example, their IP, or where is it coming from, and so on. And using this whole data points, we build a accurate map of understanding of why this transaction is taking place, who is on the other end, what are they buying, and understand all of these details, and do this in 2 seconds, right? Like and do the be and this is like the secret sauce, I would say, that we are able to build upon, that I want to highlight the most. Right, like at the end, the buyer needs to pay us back and needs to pay us back in time. That's how we can make this business work, and we need to be able to do this at scale, right? So yeah, this is the main highlight and the main secret sauce in the platform, which is what we call the risk engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the risk engine is basically looking at everything around the analysis of a business credit. They're looking at the buyer, the location of the buyer, their digital footprint, and it will do that in a snapshot.
Yes, yes,
That's pretty
absolutely.
impressive.
Yes, and it's only going to get better with more data and the transactions that we're processing right now and the many data sources that we discover and we integrate, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's only bound to get better with the longer we operate, the better it gets.
The thing that I love about startups is, as a collective trio, you've obviously thought of this idea, but to actually integrate the technical solution to your idea and think about building this risk engine to make it happen, that's what I think is the fantastic synergy here, um, to make
Yeah.
Sprinque so successful, really, because no doubt there's probably a couple of other ways that you could approach this, but you've got something that really works for you that you feel in the market is unique, and that's your draw card.
Yes. I think a lot of the credit also goes to the the founding teams, um, uh, uh, the diversity in the founding team. So, for example, like it's no, we're not only diverse in our nationalities. Mark is Dutch, I'm Indian, and then Juan is American. Not just that, but if you look at the backgrounds, Mark has this product experience, I have the technical experience, and then Juan goes out and talks to a lot of customers and combining putting this all together, it was the insights that all three of us can bring to the table is what enabled this kind of fast building and innovative solutions in putting the innovative solutions into place. I would credit like the diversity of the team and the backgrounds and of course the team that we have at Sprint at large reflects that diversity as well.
Good
Yeah.
for you. Before we talk about the experience of being a technical co-founder, can we roll it back slightly and talk about joining the Antler program
Oh yeah.
and what that experience was like for people listening who might have an idea but don't necessarily know what that experience is?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think Antler came around a very interesting time when I really wanted to start up, and I was lacking in the network of people with which I can co-found this startup with, right? Like that was something that I was frustrated with in during the pandemic. I really wanted to start up, but I also realized that I need a really strong founders to co-founders to go and attack a like a problem space and build a really cool product, right? And I think Antler came around the right time. Basically, Antler is a program where it brings founders that are interested in working on an idea, form a company. They do give an initial funding of 100K, and they introduce you to potential new VCs while you're working on this product using this little amount of funding that they give. I think that really helped us get the team together, the co-founders together, and then set up the business and start the whole thing. I think that is where the main value proposition lies with Antler. I think one thing I would say is like engineers are builders at heart, and I think engineers can look at a problem space at a specific area in the economy and see how things can be done differently if there is a lot of problems in that space and build a product. I think more engineers looking to start up, I think it can be an interesting avenue to find business co-founders that they can work with and build a company and a product. Yeah.
And this might sound slightly dim, but do you fill out an application form as in, these are my areas of interest, or this is the problem I think I can solve in the industry, and it's a matching process? Or I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think once you get in the program, it's an open room with 40 other people. So go
Okay.
talk to them and see who you I don't know vibe with and go build this company. It's one way of building a startup. It's not the only way,
Mhm.
I have to emphasize this, right? Like it's one way of starting up. There are other ways. Honestly, there, if you can find a co-founder within your previous colleagues, people you have worked with in their past, or with your friends, or with your dorm roommate, it's
Mhm.
also a great way to start a company. Antler is one of the ways to
Okay.
start building a company. Yeah.
So Antler program, three of you, 100K to kickstart. What's that experience been like moving from software engineer to a technical co-founder and growing a business?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, So we started with 100K. So I started working on the product like the day we kind of like got the money, and then we established the company and so on. That was going on, and I started building the product. I hired a couple of developers just using this 100K. We did not want to draw salary out of this initial small little fund. Right. So we hired two developers to start to just really start building up the product. If it's just me, it's not as fast. I thought, and I also had to talk to investors to manage for the next round of funding, which is the pre-seed round of funding. um, so it was a very interesting experience. I never managed people. But I was always on the building side of the product. So that part came naturally, like understanding what to build and how to build it was easier. But building a team was a challenging part, which I think one of the things I think we did very well is we had a network of advisors that we were able to bring around ourselves, right? Like that we were talking to continuously, who were directors of engineering and previous CTOs and previous co-founders, CEOs, and we were able to tap into their knowledge and learn and apply their learnings and learn from their mistakes, and yeah, and that really helped me to get the team into shape and grow the team and grow the and grow the product as well. Keep building the product with the team. Yeah, I think that is a single biggest learning for me, is like talk to people who have already done certain things before. um, Cover up the gaps in my knowledge. For example, I had a gap of building a team, and then I was able to quickly cover that up by talking to people, and also like trying out things myself. Definitely made a bunch of mistakes, but then learn from the mistakes, not repeat them. Yeah, that would be the short summary of it.
What was that early stage learning for you? Joining the first business where you couldn't find product market fit, what not to do in a startup. What was that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the mistakes that we as a founding team that we did in that particular business previously was that we had a significant amount of funding, right? And how we determine product market fit, right? And how what we defined as product market fit, what we defined as a healthy business wasn't enough.
Mm,
So our unit economics were poor. The end-to-end processes were not well automated, which resulted in hiring a large group of people to run the operations. And I think the main fundamental learning was scaling a lot before we achieved a clear product market fit and solid unit economics,
yeah.
right? And we grew to a large size, and it really became hard to iterate with the product and iterate through different business models and get to that like the solid business case on why this startup should exist, and how will this startup make profits at scale. Maybe not immediately at scale. That was not entirely clear, and I think that is the single biggest learning. There are many little learnings, like don't diversify your tech stack too much in the early
Mhm.
stage and so on. That is still like these little things are learnings that are very very important as well. But I think the core learning is this: don't scale until you get a clear product market fit and a and a positive unit economics that you can vouch for, and then you can like keep scaling up. Yeah.
Okay, got you. Talk to us a little bit about raising some funding rounds and continuing to grow the business.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So I don't lead that part of the Sprinks activity. That is very well handled by our CEO and co-founder Juan. So what role do I play in the fundraising is essentially talking about the vision, right? Like as a technical co-founder, I bring a certain vision to the table, the vision of enabling a business-to-business transaction between a seller and a buyer. They can be anywhere in this world, explaining it, how that is the main thing that I bring to the table, and also make painting a very clear, detailed view of how we build the products, right, and how we plan to scale it, right? Like essentially, what VCs are essentially looking for is this business healthy? If it is healthy, how do you scale it,
Mhm.
right? And is this the right team to do so, right? Like, and around the time of seed funding round, it usually becomes very clear that the team is great, right? Like, and we have a clear product in at our hand that we are going out and selling to customers, and customers are buying it, and so on. um, the key thing that they're looking for is how big of an opportunity it is, how does this product and the company scale as time goes on to capture a lion's share of this opportunity, yeah. And how are they differentiating against competition, and yeah,
Could I pose that question to you? How big of an opportunity do Sprinque have
yeah,
in the
absolutely.
market?
Yeah. So I believe that B2B payments is one of the largest markets out there. It's a simple, it comes down to this atomic transaction, right? Like at the atomic level, it's a buyer, a B2B merchant selling goods or services to a uh, business buyer, right? And our job is to enable this transaction no matter where the buyer is, no matter what size the buyer is, no matter what size the merchant is, right? Enabling this transaction. So if you look at this is the atomic
Yeah.
concept of where we operate. Now, if you expand it and look and take a step back, this industry is counted in trillions, right? Like the B2B payments is counted in trillions. So it is the opportunity in Europe in itself is about estimated to be about 2 trillion of B2B commerce, right? And within that, we obviously there is the S curve, like the curve of adoption, right? Like we want to focus on early stage adopters and the innovators. That segment is, even if it is, let's say, 10% of 2 trillion, it still gives you a gigantic market to look at and operate in. And I think this is the space where unicorns are generally made. Like when you have a large space, large unconsolidated space with no clear market leader, and there are problems all over the place, and you build a product, and the customers love this product, and you're able to scale it, and this is how like unicorns are made, in my opinion. Or maybe even decacorns, or companies that go to IPO, like Adyen operated in a similar area where there's a huge market, no clear leader, unconsolidated, and build the best possible products to make the customer happy. Um,
I couldn't agree more. Where do you anticipate your technical challenges will be as you scale?
Good question. Hmm. I think I would say it is still like the key focus. It will be in the risk engine, the ability to onboard a buyer, right, and give them credits and then get the money back, right? And doing this at scale is a incredible technical challenge. And I think we're gearing up with the right team, with the right domain expertise. I think this is some biggest learning. Like as an engineer, you think like, okay, I can go build something, but then you are trying to basically gain the domain expertise from scratch, which is like one of the biggest learning experience to involve domain expertise all the way from the beginning, work with them and solve these problems. I think this is the main technical challenge I would say that we will see and then overcome.
I don't want you to delve too much into your secret sauce and ask you
Okay.
a little bit more about the risk engine.
Sure. Absolutely.
But talk to us a little bit about short term and the next 6 to 12 months and what the business is looking to achieve, and also where you'll be growing. Because for people listening, and we've got some deep roots in the Netherlands, as in the podcast itself has some deep roots in the Netherlands, there will no doubt be people listening who will really want to keep an eye on what you're doing, what you're building, when the right time is to reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for the next 6 to 12 months, we are heads down building, acquiring more customers. We have some really big names going live in Q3. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but think of a large electronics OEM, right? Like, so yeah. A couple of names in that particular sector is going live with Sprinque, and basically getting more traction, getting more transactions, processing more transactions. And I think the second part is we want to build a product that customers absolutely love and can vouch for, right? And right now we are iterating towards that phase of product building. We have the product, it works well. Now, how do we absolutely like make our customers love us? And without Spring, they just can't operate, right? Like we're trying to get to that phase. And while simultaneously scale the volumes that we process. This
Yep.
is what 6 to 12 months looks like. And I think we are definitely hiring for data scientists, engineers, and specifically implementation engineers that are helping us integrate with the customers, so then the customers integrate us very fast so that we give them a really, really smooth onboarding experience so that they can start, offering Sprint as a payment method to their buyers.
Love it. Help us understand tech stack for people listening, and they can obviously tune into, is this right for them or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest learnings that I had in my previous startup was diversifying the tech stack a little too much in the beginning. Like have a lot of microservices that are one is in Python, one is in Clojure, one is in Rust, and so on. I really had a tough time managing all these little services. So one of the things that I did early on is to limit that spread. So pretty much everything that on the backend side and that is not front end is in Python, right? Like so we embrace Python. We use Python for our backend, different frameworks of Python in the backend. We use Python for data science. It has the best libraries, machine learning, artificial intelligence libraries. For all the techniques that we use in the credit risk and the risk engine side are already well built into the Python ecosystem in the form of libraries and so on. So we use that. And then one extra little quirky thing that we did is we manage our infrastructure using Python, right? Like it's a technology called Pulumi that heavily automates deployments and spinning up resources. And the beautiful thing about Pulumi is that you can write code in Go or Python or TypeScript and so on to manage your infrastructure. So we have a backend team that is very I'm a Python fan even before I started Spring, right? And now I see the kind of people that we have on the team. They're just Python experts. I cannot compare myself with them. So there we have a lot of Python expertise within the team. A lot of them actually, one of them actually is a key contributor to some of the key libraries in the open source world as well. So yeah, so we have built up this amazing Python expertise. And on the front end, we have React, TypeScript, right? Like they just magically work. They're amazing to work with. We use Kubernetes for infrastructure, AWS managed services to host and manage our all the services that we need. Yeah, that would be the tech stack.
I think the message loud and clear is Python lovers, get in touch.
Or even if you just love to build a product, get in touch. We can definitely work with that. Yes.
Product builders, get in touch. This is, I feel, a big opportunity with obviously some really smart people, at the forefront of the business who've got the right expertise, right backers, seemingly huge market to exploit, and a product that I can feel personally will really go and add value. We're going to be back here in 12, 18 months, see where you're up to, Manoj, and see what's changed, and we'll reflect on this day. We'll reflect on it.
Definitely.
I want to say a massive thank you. I want to say a massive good luck,
Thank you
and
for your time.
continue doing what you're doing. For everyone listening, the usual likes, shares, show friends in the Netherlands about these guys and girls. If you're running a B2B business, check these guys and girls out. And like I say, best of luck. We'll be back here.
Thank you. Yeah.
And a massive thanks.
All right.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this episode. Massively appreciate you listening and checking in with us. If you want to find out more about us and what we're doing, please check us out on social media. What we're trying to do at Enginears is build a community to drive knowledge sharing and experiences. On Twitter, we can be found at Enginears.io. It's no underscore. We've also got a website, which is enginears.io. These links will all be posted in the description. Any feedback and comments are massively appreciated. We're always looking to improve on where we can. Thanks, guys.